Hi, this is Dr. Perry Carpenter. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to join me on today's program. Today's program is entitled The Ethics and Law Series, and today we're focused on the limited topic of unprofessional chiropractic conduct. Now, when it comes to violations of the board's regulations, the board has the authority to take disciplinary action, and what the board does is the board takes the violation and categorizes the violation into one of four categories. And the penalties and the discipline for the violation varies and is based upon the category of violation. And I've provided this information for you in your handout materials, and this is contained within the disciplinary guidelines of the Board of Chiropractic Examiners. So I just want to go through very quickly some of these different categories of violations, and we'll talk about the penalties that are associated with each of these violation categories. Now, a Category 1 of violation is reserved for those types of lesser violations, such as a violation of the section involving waiving copayments and deductibles, such as involving the substitution of spinal manipulation for vaccination. Now, those are just examples, and of course those category levels can be raised in certain extenuating circumstances. For example, if spinal manipulation was substituted for vaccination that then resulted in the death of the patient, then the category of the violation could be increased. So these are just examples. But Category 1 is considered to be the lesser violations, and of course because the violations are lesser, the penalties are lesser as well. Category 2 violations are more serious violations and involve more serious impact upon the public, such as making or signing false documents, making false statements on the license application, being involved with false, misleading, or deceptive advertising, or for cases that involve the unauthorized disclosure of patient information. Category 3 violations are more serious still and would include examples involving gross negligence, cases involving excessive treatment, involving recklessly harming the public, involving the use of drugs or alcohol while on the chiropractic premises, or the conviction of a crime, or perhaps the use of cappers or steerers. And it's the Category 3 violations that comprise the greatest bulk of the disciplinary actions that are doled out by the Board of Chiropractic Examiners. Now, beyond Category 3, there is reserved a Category 4, which is reserved for the most serious violations, most serious cases involving gross negligence or even repeated negligent acts, conviction of a crime, excessive treatment or conviction of a crime involving moral turpitude, dishonesty, or corruption. And even though we won't talk about it on this program, but I do talk about it extensively on another program, sexual boundary violations routinely fall within Category 3. However, they can be classified as Category 4 depending upon the circumstances of the boundary violation. But most of the disciplinary actions and disciplinary penalties that are issued by the Board of Examiners involve the Category 3 violations. So let's talk about the penalties that come about as a result of these violations. Now, all categories of violations, meaning Category 1, 2, 3, and 4, they all carry both standard conditions of probation and they carry optional conditions of probation. Now, the optional conditions of probation, those are the conditions that can vary based upon the seriousness, and that's the seriousness in the eyes of the board, that is, based upon the seriousness of the violation. So, all categories of violation have certain standard conditions of probation that are consistent throughout the categories. However, depending upon which category, there are certain optional conditions of probation that can be assigned, and we'll talk about what those are here in just a moment. So the purpose of having these varying levels of penalties is so that the terms of probation can be tailored to the board's interpretation of the severity of the violation, with the most serious violations being assessed the most serious and the harshest and the most difficult conditions of probation. So here are the standard conditions of probation that apply across all the categories of violations. Number one is, during the term of probation, you must be agree to obey all laws and report any violations of local, state, and federal laws. You have to provide the board with quarterly reports. Have to be cooperative and involved with probation monitoring. May be required to have an interview with the board. Meanwhile, during the period of probation, you need to continue along with your continuing education, just as if you were on an unrestricted and unprobated status. You need to reimburse the board of all of their costs of investigation of the situation. That can become quite expensive, but this applies across all categories because it's the board's position that the costs of investigation of your violation should not be borne by the public and should not be borne by the profession as a whole. Rather, it should be borne by you, because the board considers you to be responsible for your own standards of conduct. And so that's just another area where the board punishes you hard for violations. The board may assess tolling of probation, and tolling of probation means that if for some reason your probation period is interrupted, say for example if you move out of state or something like that, that time period that you're away and out of the state does not count towards your probation period. Rather, the probation period simply becomes extended until such point as you pick it back up again. During periods of probation, the board disallows any supervision of preceptors or interns. The board requires that you notify them anytime you have a change of employment. Say, for example, if you are an associate doctor working in Clinic A and you move to Clinic B, you then have to notify them of your change of employment. Simultaneously, you need to notify, and you're required to notify your new employer or your existing employer, as the case may be. You're required to notify them of your probation and all of the terms of your probation and all of the circumstances that led to the probation in the first place. In other words, you need to disclose the violation and the penalty to your employers. You need to also provide that same information to the employees. So doctors listening to this program, can you see that this is a harsh penalty? If you are assessed discipline by the board, you need to notify all of your employers, all of your employees. In fact, when we get to the optional conditions of probation, there may be circumstances where you need to notify your patients of your discipline and give them the chance and the opportunity to either accept continuing care with you or to decline further care with you. So this is harsh penalty, but the board is concerned that the public be protected from what they perceive to be dangerous practitioners. And in certain cases, the board may require that as part of the standard condition of your probation, you may be required to surrender your license for a period of time. Usually this takes place at the beginning of the probation period, perhaps for 30 days, 45 days, as many as 60 or even 90 days. So these are very harsh conditions, and I spent extra time going through these here with you in order to bring them to your complete and immediate attention. Now, some of the optional conditions that may apply involve actual suspension of the license. If you are involved in drug or alcohol offenses, they may require you to attend either drug abuse or alcohol abuse counseling, and then also demonstrate by way of documentation that you are abstaining from the use of both alcohol and drugs. And by the way, of course, the board makes you pay for all of this stuff yourself. So if you are ordered to attend a drug or alcohol abuse counseling, it's you that gets to pay for that counseling or that detoxification program. And I don't know if you know, but those generally involve lengthy and extended inpatient stays, which can become quite expensive. The board may require you to submit to unannounced and routine blood and or urine testing if you've been involved with drug or alcohol use and abuse. For cases involving unethical billing, the board may require you to have documentation of auditing of your billing practices by a certified public accountant, again, all at your own expense. The board may order restitution for consumers, in other words, refunding of money to patients that have issued complaints against you. The board may require psychiatric or psychologic evaluation. They may require you to attend a period of expensive psychotherapy, and many other unpleasant conditions of probation can be assessed by the board based upon the severity of the violation. For sexual violators, for violation of sexual boundaries, the board may require that your treatment visits be chaperoned by a third party. So, for example, in the case of a male doctor found to be guilty of violation of sexual boundaries, the board may require that a female person be present when female patients are receiving treatment. This, of course, is tremendous added expense to the practicing chiropractor, not to mention tremendously embarrassing to the doctor and to the patient as well when they learn of the reason of the third-party presence at each of their treatment visits. And the reason that the patient is aware of the reason of the third party being present is because the board may require that you provide notification to the patients as to the conditions of your probation and as to the details that were involved with your violation. So severe penalties, doctors, you do not want to go there. That is the purpose of this course, is to keep us all practicing safe chiropractic uninterrupted for years and decades to come, and to create happy patients that stay, pay, and happily refer. So doctors, I hope this has been helpful for you. This is a brief program. It's not the typical type of program that I'm usually involved with. My main interest is in physical examination and anatomy, and you'll see that by looking at the courses that are on my website. However, I took this program on and created the Ethics and Law series to provide some real training and some real discussion for you and for me, and to keep fresh forever in our minds situations that could potentially jeopardize the exalted position that the public bestows upon us as doctors. The doctor title and the doctor position, the doctor stature, is legendary in the eyes of the public. And we need to acknowledge that and constantly keep that at the forefront of our mind, and behave responsibly and always behave in the best interests of our patients. And so with that in mind, I created this series on ethics and law for both of us, as reminders to both of us to always be on the top of our game. So that concludes this course. I hope you learned some things from this course. Included with this course is a 5-question course examination. When you're done, please fax or email that back to me. I've included the email address here for you. For those of you that have the PowerPoint presentation, also have the fax number here for you as well. And just as soon as I get that course examination, I'll issue your certificate of completion immediately. And I want to remind you to remember to visit our website, which is easychiropracticCEU.com, for programs and products designed to help you succeed as a chiropractor. For now, this is Dr. Perry Carpenter. I'm looking forward to being with you on future programs. And for now, I'm wishing you best of success in your career as a chiropractor. Again, thank you very much.